Chapter 1661 Intelligence of the Wulon Tribe. When Zhang Yi heard the frog's words, he immediately thought of the origin of the big chinchilla. When the changes in the fog valley of Qingdao just started, Zhang Yi sneaked into Qingdao. After he went to the island for the second time, he met the big chinchilla. This special creature has a genetic sequence that is completely different from the known creatures on the planet, and it is suspected to come from the abyss of the fog valley. Zhang Yi once thought that it was actually an aboriginal under the fog valley. But after seeing the gatekeeper of the underworld and the lizard form of the elite troops of the fog valley, he dispelled this idea. However, its origin is definitely related to the fog valley. And at such a critical moment, it suddenly changed, which naturally made Zhang Yi very concerned. It's just a pity that Zhang Yi couldn't get more information from this creature from the underground. So later, the frog appeared. It can actually communicate with the big chinchilla through music. As time went by, Zhang Yi almost forgot about this matter and only kept the big chinchilla at home as a pet. Zhang Yi asked, "What's wrong? Any news?" The frog croaked twice, and the big chinchilla walked over slowly, swaying its fat body. In the 2 years since it moved into the shelter, it has become fatter and fatter, with shiny fur and a cute look. It now has a very good relationship with everyone in the shelter. Although it is huge and has a certain fighting power, it is particularly close to family. The big chinchilla came to the crowd with a simple and honest expression on its face and raised its furry paws towards Zhang Yi. ABA, 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 ABA. Zhang Yi. He was so confused that he could only look at the frog. The frog said, "The big chinchilla is saying that it knows where the people who attacked Tianhai City before came from." Zhang Yi crossed his arms. "I know this too. Isn't it from under the fog valley of Qingdao? The big chinchilla should also come from there, right?" The frog croaked at the big chinchilla twice, and the big chinchilla said something again with his hands and feet dancing. The frog once again acted as a translator. Yes, they came from the same place as the big chinchilla. Well, the big chinchilla's IQ is not very high, but I can roughly understand what it means. It knows that we are now enemies with a mysterious race under the fog valley, and they attacked Tianhai City. So now, the big chinchilla has decided to help us and fight against their invasion. The frog croaked and explained, and finally made it clear what the big chinchilla wanted to express. The big chinchilla did come from underground, but it is more of a tool-type creature than an aboriginal underground. According to its description, when the end of the surface world just came, it also affected the underground world. That's why this special creature was developed and allowed to come to the surface world for exploration. This is why, although the fighting ability of the big chinchilla is average, it has an ability index close to the captain level when it first appears. Moreover, it is also very good at digging because it is needed to open up the passage from the underground to the surface world. Zhang Yi immediately thought of the term little white mouse. When humans conduct various experiments, they will use creatures such as little white mice or monkeys and dogs to simulate. For example, when they first entered space, they used animals for experiments. Therefore, the big chinchilla should be similar to the creatures that the Wulon Empire used to test the human world, so it must be a variety bred through experiments. So that's it. Zhang Yi couldn't help but sigh. After thinking for a while, he asked, "Although the big chinchilla is not an advanced creature, it should also know something about the underground world. We are about to go to war with them. Can you provide some useful information? For example, what are the weaknesses of the races in the underground world?" The frog communicated with the big chinchilla again. Then he gave the statement, "If the underground tribes are compared with humans, they have almost no weaknesses, because the human body is too weak. The population of the Wulon Empire is not inferior to humans in terms of physical fitness or wisdom, and their fighting talent is far higher than that of humans. Even in terms of technology, they are more advanced than current humans." These words directly made everyone silent. Uncle Yu pinched his chin and frowned and said, "So, don't we have any advantage in the confrontation with them?" Yang Xinxin said very rationally, "That's the case. If it weren't for the restrictions on the creatures of the underground races in this world, when the First War started, many large areas of Huashu country would have been destroyed. And this is based on the fact that the other party did not use all their strength. If the other party is really a higher creature that has existed since several epochs ago, they must have a technology level far beyond ours. Such a conclusion makes people feel extremely desperate. If that's the case, this tribe is like a god to humans. In that case, what else can we use to fight? Zhang Yi said, there is no need to be so pessimistic. We have fought with them before. Although we can feel that they are indeed very strong, they are not yet irresistible. In the last battle, they won a great victory and wiped out the invading enemies. The frog had another conversation with the big chinchilla. The big chinchilla blinked its cute big eyes, as if thinking about something, and then it gurgled again. The frog said, it means that the tribes of the Wulwan Empire seem to have been suppressing the progress of science and technology. And in terms of weapons, they have always refused to develop weapons of mass destruction. Strange. Why is that? Uncle Yu said in confusion. Zhang Yi had some vague guesses in his mind. Could it be that when a civilization evolves to a certain level, it will usher in such an end of extinction? There is no time to think about such philosophical questions now, so Zhang Yi asked the frog to ask on his behalf whether the tribes of the Wulwan Empire have any weaknesses that can be exploited. The big chinchilla thought for a long time, but finally shook his head. An advanced civilization that has existed for countless years cannot have two obvious defects. Time is enough for them to make up for all their shortcomings. This answer made everyone feel unhappy. They thought they could get useful information, but the news they got now only made them more nervous. At this time, Yang Xinxin, who had been listening to the information silently, suddenly spoke. No, they have shortcomings. And they are very obvious shortcomings. Chapter 1662 Environment. Yang Xinxin's words attracted everyone's attention, and everyone turned to look at her. Zhang Yi's eyes lit up. Yang Xinxin's IQ was very high, and she could always easily see through some problems that ordinary people could not find. Since she said so, there must be a basis for it. Xinxin, what do you think about this matter? Zhang Yi asked. Amid the expectant and curious gazes of the crowd, Yang Xinxin slowly spoke. Do you remember when these attacks by the Fog Valley aliens took place? Zhou Ke immediately helped everyone recall. The last time was at midnight, around 12 o'clock. The attack on Shengjing district was also during this time period. According to the intelligence they provided, it was around 10 o'clock in the evening. Yang Xinxin said, yes, they basically choose to act in the middle of the night. And they are all wearing thick armor. In fact, from the perspective of their combat power, that kind of armor does not improve them much. Yang Xinxin said here, and looked at Zhang Yi, brother, except for the special armor on you, is there anything special about the combat uniforms worn by the Ypsilons in other regions? Zhang Yi shrugged and said, the biggest function is actually to keep warm, and then provide a series of relatively comprehensive functions. But for the Ypsilon-level aliens, it can only be said that it makes up for their respective shortcomings, but cannot get much combat power bonus. Yang Xinxin snapped his fingers crisply. Yes, that's right. So we can also judge that they who live in the underground world have no way to adapt to the environment of the surface world, just like humans must wear special clothes when entering the deep sea or the universe. The temperature on the surface today is very low, and it is difficult for them to adapt quickly. Lu Kuoran raised his objection at this time. But I remember that during the battle, the armor of some of the aliens in the Fog Valley was damaged, but they were still able to continue fighting. Yang Xinxin said, this is probably related to their own supernatural properties. Just like the enhanced aliens can withstand extreme environments. Zhang Yi nodded. This makes a lot of sense. In other words, they rushed to the land to attack us, and they were very unadaptable to the environment, right?
Zhang
He thought about it and suddenly shook his head. This doesn't make much sense. Let alone them. We ourselves have to wear combat uniforms to resist extreme low temperatures. If there is no protection of combat uniforms, aliens without physical enhancement abilities will definitely be frostbitten or even frozen to death in the current external environment. Yang Xinxin smiled slightly. In addition to this, there must be other aspects. For example, ultraviolet rays or air. Think about it carefully. Yang Xinxin slowly looked at Zhang Yi and the others. Why did they choose to retreat less than 2 hours after the battle started, even though they had absolute advantages in several regions? Maybe their bodies can only sustain the battle for so long in the surface environment. She looked at Zhang Yi. Brother, do you remember the time when we went to the underground demon country in the southwest region? Zhang Yi nodded. Of course he remembered that time. Although he didn't stay in Nash country for a long time, the memory he left was particularly deep, and he even felt that he had been there for several months. Because the environment was too depressing for him. The light and oxygen concentration were completely different from the surface world, and he had to breathe oxygen to maintain the best combat condition. But how to explain Wan Ping? Zhou Kur frowned and said, he has been undercover in Tianhai City for a year. His daily actions are no different from those of ordinary people. Yang Xinxin explained, because he is wearing human skin, which is a high-tech combat uniform. Yang Xinxin looked at Lu Kuran, and Lu Kuran also looked over, and the two smiled at each other. After killing Wan Ping, although his body was damaged, we found some remains at the scene of the battle. Among them is the shattered human skin. Kuran analyzed it, and the result is an artificial skin similar to biological tissue. And one of its major functions is to protect against ultraviolet rays. Zhang Yi suddenly raised his head. Protective against ultraviolet rays? Do you mean that those guys in the Wulwan Empire are afraid of the sun? Yang Xinxin nodded. According to the information we have obtained so far, they are indeed not adapted to strong ultraviolet rays. Even if they are not afraid of ultraviolet rays like the legendary vampires, they are definitely not adapted to the environment of strong ultraviolet rays. She spread her hands. After all, they have lived in the underground world for an extremely long time and cannot see the sun in the sky at all. Zhang Yi's heart was pounding. He held his chin and thought about how likely Yang Xinxin's analysis was. Yang Xinxin said bluntly, it's actually very simple to confirm my guess. Brother, how could you forget that we still have a lot of lizardmen's corpses in our hands? Just use their corpses for experiments. Won't you know? Zhang Yi slapped his forehead. Yes, how could I forget this? It was not long after the previous battle, and the entire Huashu kingdom was shrouded in a war that could happen again at any time. Zhang Yi even forgot to dissect the corpses of the lizardmen to study their weaknesses. Zhang Yi did not hesitate and immediately said to Zhou Kur, Kur, you have worked hard these days. Zhou Kur nodded, her face full of joy. Finally, I found an opportunity to find their weaknesses. I will definitely give the experimental results as soon as possible. Zhang Yi turned on the communication device and sent a message directly to the high-level group of the 6 major regions of Huashu country. Tell them that he has the corpses of lizard men in his hands. It is a bit hurtful to say that in this battle, only Tianhai City has the corpses of lizard men. In other regions, when the lizard men retreated, they took away the bodies of the dead warriors very calmly. At this time, the major regions finally came to their senses and immediately sent people to Tianhai City to receive the corpses of lizardmen and take them back for research. The first to arrive was of course Dai Sheng of the Shengjing region, Tianjiexing Dai Sheng. He has completed the layout of the entire Huashu star cluster and can travel between the various regions at any time. The next to arrive was the messenger from Blizzard City. The researcher of the Scientific Research Department and the person of Deng's biotechnology company Deng Shintong came in person. After seeing Deng Shintong, Zhang Yi couldn't help but look at him twice more. He could feel that there was something unusual about the man in front of him. Zhang Yi asked, have you been to Ypsilon? Chapter 1663 Old Thing. Facing Zhang Yi's inquiry, Deng Shintong did not hide anything and nodded with a smile. This is all thanks to you, Deng Shintong said sincerely. If Zhang Yi had not helped him and taken him to Neon to obtain the real dragon specimen, he would not have had the opportunity to achieve his own breakthrough. Zhang Yi asked curiously, what is your ability index now? Deng Shintong replied, after precise calculation, my ability index is around 11,000 points. At this point, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. Zhang Yi was a little surprised. So low? He touched his nose. Although he was promoted to the Ypsilon realm and got rid of the level of ants, it was obviously not enough to be used as a main force. Deng Shintong smiled slightly. My promotion is a bit special, but it's not that bad. Maybe in the next war, I can play a role. Deng Shintong's promotion depends on external forces. The girl named Amber has the blood of a dragon. Relying on the DNA in the body of the real dragon specimen, her ability to return to her ancestors was stimulated. And its special ability is auxiliary, so its own combat power is not strong. Deng Shintong became the binder of her ability and thus achieved a breakthrough, so his ability index is relatively low. Compared with Zhang Yi, a gifted person, or someone who relies on the source of God to open the gene lock, his breakthrough speed is faster, and it is inevitable that there is some difference in the level of strength. Zhang Yi heard Deng Shintong say this, and couldn't help asking, you have a backup plan, right? Deng's technology, or your mysterious binding girlfriends? Deng Shintong shrugged, allow me to keep this secret for now. But his face became deep. Nowadays, my power can probably only be used for self-protection, because the next main battlefield is still the domain of you old Ypsilons. My first task is to protect Blizzard City. Of course, you can also regard me as a surprise soldier. If necessary, I will take action. Deng Shintong's strength breakthrough is certainly a good thing, but Zhang Yi has no time to wait for him to grow up. At least it will not be of much use at present. However, he thought of one thing. Zhang Yi looked at Deng Shintong, narrowed his eyes slightly, and asked sharply, do you still remember the clone of Yuan Kongya in Blizzard City? If even Deng Shintong has broken through to Ypsilon, then what level of ability should Juyu, the clone of Yuan Kongya that Zhang Yi once feared, have reached now? Zhang Yi will not forget her. Yuan Kongya's ability is one of the top ones among all the aliens Zhang Yi has ever seen. The ability to grow rapidly by absorbing the abilities and origins of others allows her to break through to an incredible level at the fastest speed. There is no hatred between Zhang Yi and Juyu. However, he understands that Juyu is the killer that Zhu Zheng has painstakingly cultivated. Although he and Zhu Zheng are getting along well at present, no one is willing to be inferior to others for a long time, especially the once arrogant superior. So once one day, Zhu has a certain degree of power, then at that time, Zhu Zheng will slowly take back the initiative between the two. Deng Shintong frowned, shook his head and said, there is no news about her. The existence of this person has always been a mystery in Blizzard City. I only saw her once. It was probably during the turbulent period of Blizzard City when Zhu Zheng deliberately demonstrated force to deter other forces. But since then, this person has completely disappeared. I guess she should have been hidden by Zhu Zheng and secretly cultivated. At this point, Deng Shintong smiled, but his expression was a little solemn and said, maybe now, Blizzard City already has 2 Ypsilon-level aliens including me. Zhang Yi suddenly turned his head and stared at Deng Shintong, a dangerous aura emanating from him. Deng Shintong retreated again and again, waving his hands and said, hey, boss, don't have that expression. I'm a little scared. Zhang Yi was naturally not targeting Deng Shintong. After thinking for a moment, he slowly said, science and technology are the primary productive forces. In the early days of the apocalypse, the Jiangnan region has always been at the bottom of the 6 regions of Huaxu because there are no Ypsilon-level aliens. But it seems that you are the first to break through the genetic field and master the method of creating Ypsilon-level aliens. Even if Juyu has Yuan Kongya's genes, it is not easy for a quasi-Ypsilon to break through to the Ypsilon realm. For example, Huahua and Liangyu beside Zhang Yi also spent a lot of time with the help of the Source of God. Deng Shintong said, I don't know how the scientific research department of Blizzard City is progressing, but Deng's technology only helped me to advance with the help of Amber's ability. He lowered his head and looked at his slender white palm. This power is indeed intoxicating, but my advancement is not pure. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed with a dangerous aura. Should I go directly to Blizzard City and ask Zhu Zheng for clarification? It is still uncertain whether Zhu Zheng has really succeeded in cultivating Juyu. However, the information obtained from the underground world confirmed that ancient civilizations had mastered the method of creating Source of God and Spirit of Sacrifice. Theoretically, modern times with more advanced science and technology may also master this technology. Deng Shintong was shocked. Hey, bro. It's not appropriate for you to do this at this time, right? With a powerful enemy at hand, if Zhang Yi broke into Blizzard City and provoked a conflict, he would indeed become the target of public criticism. Zhang Yi smiled faintly. Don't worry, I know what's going on. If one day, Zhu Zheng's research really yields results, he will be unable to hold back and jump out. Zhang Yi walked to the window, looked at the huge Tianhai fortress that had been built outside, and leisurely took a sip of hot coffee from the table. I'm even beginning to look forward to it. 3 days later, Donghai City. A huge warship emerged from the seawater, like a huge sea beast, and appeared in the port of Donghai City. Even Xuanwu was like an underage turtle in front of it. The largest amphibious warship of the Colombian Navy, the Nautilus, came to the territory of Huaxi State for the first time. At the port, Li Guangxiao, the supreme commander of the East China Sea region, led a group of officers to solemnly line up here to welcome the reinforcements from Colombia. Xuanwu hovered over the harbor of Donghai City with a solemn look, neither humble nor arrogant. Chapter 1664. Reinforcements arrive. The huge alloy door of the Nautilus opened with a rumble, and 3 extraordinary aliens appeared in front of everyone. The leader was a tall man named Newton, who carried a huge technological hand cannon on his back. The 2 ACEs of the Columbia Ocean Fleet, Ocean Lord John Cartier's and Piercer, Yassine Canero, stood on both sides of him. Of the 3 aliens, 2 have reached the level of Black Chariot. Even the weakest Canero is well known in the ocean as a genius. The 3 giants sent by Colombia this time are all very powerful. The officers of the East China Sea region couldn't help but whispered, Colombia is very sincere this time. Someone next to him said, of course, if Huaxi loses this battle, they will also lose their dominance over the Southeast Asian waters. In front of a common enemy, even former competitors can become temporary allies. The 3 giants walked off the battleship, and behind them, the members of the Wave's special forces, who were covered in armor, also came in a clear formation. Newton came to Li Guangxiao, his eyes swept over Xuanwu, and paused for a moment on Suzako, then shook hands with Li Guangxiao. Hello, Marshal Li. This time, we will assist you in defending the ocean. Li Guangxiao's face was full of smiles. Great. With your help, we are now very confident about the war in the ocean. The 2 top naval forces in the world can easily sweep across the seas of the entire planet when they join forces. And the first time they joined forces was to resist enemies other than humans. After Newton and Li Guangxiao shook hands, he said directly, after the 2 navies meet, the ocean defense line will be handed over to you. And next, I will go to Tianhai City. A look of surprise appeared on Li Guangxiao's face. Tianhai City? I thought you were going to Shengjing. Newton said, according to our war game simulation, the next war will most likely break out in Tianhai City. This is not difficult to analyze. From the last war, it can be seen that the focus of the Wulwan Empire's attack is Tianhai City. Zhang Yi himself also has 1,000 connections with the Wulwan Empire. They had suffered a great loss at the hands of Zhang Yi, so they must get back at him here. Li Guangxiao lowered his eyes and said seriously, although we are very grateful for your support, after arriving in Huaxi country, we still hope that you can cooperate with our work in the next battle. Therefore, this matter needs to be decided by our major regions first. Newton nodded, and there was almost no expression on his face, even giving people a sense of déjà vu of zombies. It doesn't matter, but he changed the subject, but I want to go to Tianhai City first. I am very curious about the legendary Chaos. Li Guangxiao said, this matter needs to be discussed with Chaos in person. No one can make the decision for Zhang Yi. Newton nodded slowly upon hearing this. He turned around and said to Cadilas and Canero, according to the original plan, you will cooperate with the Huaxi Navy to defend the coastline. In the ocean, Cat Isle's strength can be maximized, so you don't need to consider the war on land. The 2 of them nodded without any objection. Cadilas laughed and said, Hey, Newton, what is your action plan? Newton glanced at him and said coldly, I am an observer. My specific action plan will be considered according to the situation of this battle. Newton was just here to carry out the mission. Of course, he would not fight to the death to protect Huaxiu. When he came, the order he received was to cooperate with the aliens of Huaxiu, but he would choose to retreat without hesitation when he encountered danger. Of course, Cadiles and Canero probably meant the same thing. Newton asked for Zhang Yi's communication channel and contacted him directly. Soon, the video was connected. At this time, Zhang Yi was using a new communication channel, which was specially used in wartime. Only his close confidants and senior officials in various regions knew about it. So he knew that the person who could get his contact information was definitely not ordinary. Zhang Yi's face appeared in the picture. Seeing Newton's foreign face, Zhang Yi asked lightly, "Hello, who are you?" Newton said, "I am an alien from Colombia to support. You can call me Newton." Mr. Chaos, in order to deploy for the next war, I hope to go to Tianhai City, and I want to get your permission. Zhang Yi thought for a while and asked, "You mean, do you think Tianhai City will become the next main battlefield?" Newton said, "From the analysis of big data, this possibility is very high." Zhang Yi complained in his heart, "Now I am almost a tourist attraction in Huaxiu country, and everyone who comes wants to see me. There is no way. People are afraid of being famous and pigs are afraid of being fat." He didn't want to deal with the aliens in Colombia to avoid these guys doing something dirty in his territory. However, this time Newton did come to support, and according to the information provided by Shengjing, this guy belongs to the very powerful alien organization Natural Science Association in Colombia, and his strength has reached the level of Black Chariot. Zhang Yi couldn't refuse such a helper. "Mr. Newton is willing to come to Tianhai City. I will." Of course, they're very welcome. Newton nodded. "Okay, I'll go there right away." Zhang Yi, you are really anxious. But he can understand that the war may start at any time, and everyone is racing against time. After getting Zhang Yi's consent, Newton said goodbye to Li Guangxiao and others without any polite words. He left the Nautilus to Cartier's and took the Sea Wolf Special Forces to Tianhai City on a warship. At the same time, in Shengjing, a guest from the north was also welcomed. He was a strong man who was as strong as a bear, serious, and even a little dull. His brown hair was slightly curly, and he had a long beard. As long as he didn't speak, you couldn't see where his mouth was. He appeared at the north gate of Shengjing in a lumberjack-like outfit, holding a black metal box that was almost as big as him. "Is this Shengjing City?" He touched the beard on his chin and murmured in a low voice. "It seems to be much higher than the wall of Karen." Soon, the gate of Shengjing City slowly opened. Shang Dawen, dressed in a white military robe, led his Tiangang people to the north gate. He smiled and bowed to Thunder God Per and Alexei. "Welcome, my sincere friends." Chapter 1665 Red Soil Basin. Newton led the Seawolf Special Forces to Tianhai City, and Zhang Yi received him at the harbor where the Chaoyu base was located.
When
Zhang Yi first met this native Black Chariot-class alien from Colombia, he only felt that he looked like a cold robot. In addition to his expressionless face, he was also very frugal in speaking and seemed unwilling to say a useless word. "I heard that the last time Huaxiu country was attacked, only Tianhai City achieved a comprehensive victory. I wonder if you would be inconvenient to tell me about the battles?" Newton said bluntly. Zhang Yi did not take Newton to his Tianhai fortress. That was his biggest secret. If Newton took people there, it would be very likely to expose the weapons deployment there. The most important thing was that he might discover the existence of the barrier stone. This special material is the core of the Tianhai fortress, and it can even greatly weaken the attack power of the Ypsilon-class alien. The fewer people who know about its existence, the better. However, Zhang Yi still gave the best answer to Newton's question. "Of course, after all, we are allies on the same front now." Zhang Yi took Newton to a reception room in the Chaoyu base and told him in detail about the battle that night. Of course, Zhang Yi kept his own secrets to himself. After listening, Newton held up his chin and said, "Well, is that so? Your power actually has 3 Ypsilon-level beings at the same time. Even in today's world, it is close to the level of first-class forces, second only to several superpowers. The troops of the Wulwan Empire did not lose unjustly." He raised his head and looked at Zhang Yi carefully, but I think the most critical factor for this battle to win is that your preparation is sufficient. Your caution is admirable. Newton was right about this. If Zhang Yi had not sensed that danger might come early and was always prepared, then even though Tianhai City has 3 Ypsilons, the basic combat power is very few. If it is attacked by the troops of the Wulwan Empire rashly, even if it can win, it will inevitably be a miserable victory. A gleam of light flashed behind Newton's gold-rimmed glasses. He crossed his arms and said slowly, "That is to say, although Huaxiu suffered heavy losses last time, it was able to maintain its basic base in the case of a sneak attack, which means that the strength of the Wulwan Empire is not as terrible as imagined. This information is critical, especially the aliens wearing silver armor led by them, whose strength is only at the level of black chariots." Zhang Yi looked at Newton and said calmly, "That's not the point. What we are most afraid of is the existence that is more terrible than the silver armor." Newton's eyebrows stood up, and his expression became more solemn. "Are you talking about the monster wearing black armor standing in the sky of the Fog Valley? 2 years ago, they received a video from the missing warships of the Ocean Fleet. The gatekeeper of the Hades at that time showed unparalleled strength and directly swept away the top aliens from various countries present. Even now, the strength of Zhang Yi, Cartier's, and Xuanwu at that time has grown. But recalling the battle, not only did they not have the confidence to fight, but they felt more and more the power of the Hades gatekeeper. It was a kind of teasing of adults to children, just like humans encountering strange small animals in the wild, and I can't help but want to play with them. The Hades gatekeeper at that time did not use his full strength on them, otherwise there would be no survivors that day. Maybe the situation is not as bad as imagined." Newton looked at Zhang Yi and suddenly said so. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. "Oh, why do you say that?" He waited for Newton's next words. "Colombia has the strength of the world's top countries, and in the past 200 years, they have always been the world's top powers. Then, they must have a lot of information that other countries don't know." Newton pushed his gold-rimmed glasses and spoke slowly in a cold voice. "A century ago, when your country was still in its infancy, we in Colombia had already begun investigating abnormal things. Since the 1950s, the investigation of extraterrestrial life has never been interrupted. Of course, we can say that. We know better than anyone that there is more than just human beings in this world. Advanced intelligent civilization. In the past, people regarded all unknown advanced civilizations as aliens. But such an idea has no logical basis. If there really is such a race, mastering the technology that can cross tens or even tens of thousands of light years to reach this planet, then their power can easily turn the blue planet into a colony. So why would they hide?" Newton's tone was full of sarcasm. The collision of 2 completely different civilizations, with an absolute crushing victory in terms of technology, can only lead to conquest. Why should they hide? Zhang Yi crossed his arms and said calmly, "So, you have long known that those abnormal civilization phenomena all come from the underground world?" "Not entirely," Newton said, "but in most cases, we can always find incredible existences in the abyss. In the 1970s, we discovered the activity tracks of underground creatures in the Leibniz Red Earth Basin. According to the unsealed records, the Colombian government dispatched more than 2,000 special forces and a large number of geological prospectors to investigate. Guess what the result was?" He looked at Zhang Yi with interest, his eyes playful. "All dead," Zhang Yi said lightly. Newton nodded. They entered a huge abyss pit in the red soil basin, and after descending more than 2,000 meters, they encountered 2 strange humanoid creatures. 2. Yes, 2. One is only more than 1 meter tall. As for the image, there is a movie called E.T. Have you seen it? No, but I have probably seen the commentary in the short video. It is the standard alien appearance, right? Yes, that's the appearance. The various alien appearances that came later also came from this version. The small underground creature looks like that, but the big one is more than 3 meters tall, similar to the small one, but white. Newton drew a circle on his chest with his finger. At that time, The Special Forces members accompanying him were frightened by this scene, so they shot and killed the small creature. Then, the big underground creature made the same movement on his chest. After that, only one person from the team that sneaked into the abyss became disabled and was dragged back, while the others all died.